Well, before we begin our journey, I'd like to invite you to join us on Secrets of the Ancients. If you want to watch this and future videos, please support us by subscribing, liking and commenting. It really helps us keep exploring these mysteries together. They found the tomb of a royal doctor who lived over 4,000 years ago. This man held the life of the pharaoh in his hands. He knew secrets only gods and kings were allowed to hear. Yet when his tomb was opened in 2024, there was no body, just vivid, untouched paintings and mysterious symbols carved into stone. Who was he, and why was he buried with spells linked to the scorpion goddess? The tomb was buried deep beneath the sands of Saqqara. The doctor's name was Teti Nebifu. He lived around 4,100 years ago, during one of the most mysterious turning points in Egyptian history, right at the edge of glory and collapse. These were the final days of Egypt's Old Kingdom. The sun still shimmered over the newly built pyramids, but shadows were creeping in. Pharaoh Pepi II ruled for 90 years, longer than anyone before him. But by the end of his reign, Egypt was falling apart. Central power was weakening, regional leaders were rising, and the Nile floods had become unpredictable. During this chaotic period, the mysterious doctor thrived. His tomb was discovered by a Swiss-French archaeological team near the ancient pyramids. But the strangest part, when they opened the burial chamber, there was no mummy, no golden treasure either. The tomb had been looted long ago, but what remained was far more intriguing, words and images left on the walls. The paintings are still vibrant, their colours somehow surviving all these years underground. The walls show jars, containers, abstract patterns and geometric shapes. There are also long lines of hieroglyphs, carved so carefully it's like someone poured their soul into every curve. These inscriptions revealed who Teti Nebifu really was. He wasn't just a doctor, he was a sorcerer of Serket. Serket was the scorpion goddess, sacred, feared and believed to stop venom, heal stings and protect the living from poison. That title meant Teti Nebifu was an expert in treating deadly bites and stings, and if he had his own tomb, he might have been Egypt's top specialist in this field, a man who healed using both science and magic. But that wasn't all. He also held the rare title of Chief of Medicinal Plants, something only seen once before in all of ancient Egypt. This suggests he knew more about the healing power of herbs, roots and oils than anyone else of his time. You might ask, what kind of plants grow in a giant desert? Actually, ancient Egyptians used herbal medicine that could hold up in some modern labs. They made pills, ointments and inhalers. They used active ingredients, added flavor to make them easier to swallow, and had methods to deliver them into the body. Sound familiar? Sure, they didn't have access to the same plants we do, so some ingredients seem strange by today's standards, like mixing honey with crocodile dung and acacia. They even had anti-wrinkle creams. Teti Nebifu was also the chief dentist, a title almost never seen in ancient records. Evidence of Egyptian dentists is extremely rare, but he wasn't just fighting venom and studying herbs, he also treated teeth and jaws, which was a huge issue in ancient Egypt. The people of that time often chewed gritty bread full of sand and raw vegetables that wore down their enamel. Tooth erosion was common and caused a lot of pain and tooth loss. They had to improvise. The world's oldest known toothpaste was made of crushed rock, mint and pepper, which actually made things worse for the gums. Another recipe used eggshells, peas and natron, a salty cleaning mineral. They even made mouthwash from celery, bran and herbs. Some mummies were found with primitive braces, gold wires tying teeth together. We're not sure if they were for the living or just added as a bonus for the afterlife. So Teti Nebifu was a master of three rare specialties. In his time, people must have been in awe of him. In a world without modern science, he was like a magician who knew how to use bark or leaves to save lives. Archaeologists believe he was likely a royal doctor, maybe even the pharaoh's personal physician, possibly to Pepi II himself. Who knows? Maybe that's why Pepi lived so long. If so, Teti Nebifu witnessed the fall of the Old Kingdom from within palace walls. And when he died, he was buried. But his body may have been stolen or lost to time. Still, the team is studying the tomb and continues uncovering clues about his life. Ancient Egyptian medicine was, honestly, surprisingly advanced. Many of their practices are still familiar to us today. They actually had hospitals, specialists, surgical clinics, even medical schools, if you can believe it. Both men and women could become doctors in that world. They used real, tangible tools like scalpels, forceps and sutures. Some doctors focused only on eyes, others on teeth or digestion, or even what they called hidden diseases. They cleaned and dressed wounds, set broken bones with wooden splints wrapped in linen, and remarkably understood how to prevent infections. They even had proctologists, would you believe, and they made the first prosthetics, like a wooden toe with leather straps to help people walk again. One of those is, 3,000 years old. One of the most shocking discoveries is that they even tried to remove tumours. A recent study examined a 4,000-year-old skull from a man in his 30s. It had signs of tumours, and 3 cuts likely made by metal tools, suggesting an attempt at removal or examination. Another skull, from a woman over 50, had similar signs, plus healed fractures from an old injury, which means her treatment may have actually worked. Being a healer in ancient Egypt meant being a priest, a scholar, and a magician all at once. Egyptians believed illness was both physical and spiritual. A doctor might say a spell while applying a salve, and oddly enough it worked. Egyptian doctors were so respected that foreign rulers, including Persian kings, sought their help. Even Homer once said Egyptian healers were the best in the world. Now, sure, their understanding wasn't perfect. They thought the heart controlled thoughts and feelings, and they didn't really know what the brain did, but their method of observing symptoms, diagnosing and treating, that's modern medicine right there. They prayed over wounds, yes, but they also treated them. Their most famous doctor was Imhotep. He was a true polymath architect, priest and physician, who became so revered he was eventually worshipped as the god of medicine. He lived 2,000 years before Hippocrates, the so-called father of medicine. Some even joke we should swear the Imhotep oath instead of the Hippocratic one. These people weren't just laying the foundations for pyramids, they were laying the foundations for modern healthcare. Centuries later, in Paris, a 31-year-old Frenchman burst into his brother's office and, collapsed from excitement. His name? Jean-François Champollion. He had just cracked the code of Egyptian hieroglyphs, something humanity hadn't been able to read for 2,000 years. His discovery opened the door to understanding Egypt's ancient wisdom. The last known hieroglyphic text dates to the 4th century AD. After Rome took over Egypt, the writing system faded, but the Egyptians had been using hieroglyphs since 3250 BCE. Their writing began as a way to keep track of trade and storage. One early example is a clay jar marked with black ink. They used 2 main scripts, hieroglyphic, those sacred carvings found on temples and tombs, and hieratic, a simpler script used mostly on papyrus. Eventually, hieratic evolved into demotic, the everyday script. When Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, Greek became more common, and over time the Egyptian-Greek hybrid language, Coptic, emerged, replacing the old system. Only priests continued using hieroglyphs until, their meaning was lost. That was until Champollion cracked the Rosetta Stone. Found in 1799 in Rosetta, Egypt, it featured 3 scripts: Greek, Demotic and hieroglyphic. Though damaged, the Greek part helped scholars decode the others. Thomas Young, an English physicist, made the first breakthrough. He realized names like Ptolemy were spelled phonetically in hieroglyphs. Then Champollion, who knew Coptic, figured out even more sounds, leading to a moment of pure clarity. Hieroglyphs weren't just pictures, they were a real phonetic language. This changed everything. It let historians finally read ancient Egyptian texts, giving a voice to a civilization long misunderstood. And without that discovery, we wouldn't have been able to identify treasures like King Tut's golden mask or understand the writing on tomb walls. We'd still be guessing. Thanks to their advanced medical knowledge, spiritual depth and scientific mindset, the ancient Egyptians were far ahead of their time, and in many ways not so different from us. You'd be exposed to a similar level of radiation if you didn't throw out that mouldy dinner you left rotting in your fridge a month ago. But this kind of radiation isn't limited to Tutankhamun's tomb. Discovering ancient Egyptian artifacts is rewarding, but also risky, because of unusually high levels of radiation found in Old Kingdom tombs across Egypt. Geiger counters have detected radiation at 2 sites near the Giza pyramids. Radon gas, which is radioactive, has also been found in many underground tombs in Saqqara. Interestingly, experts believe the builders of these ancient tombs knew about toxins. Some pretty creepy warnings were carved into the walls. One inscription ominously reads, "Whoever breaks this tomb will die from a disease no doctor can diagnose." Other spooky phrases like "forbidden" because of evil spirits only added to fears of supernatural curses haunting these ancient places. These eerie warnings have long puzzled archaeologists, but the fear really spiked about a century ago, after the mysterious death of Lord Carnarvon, who funded the 1922 excavation of King Tutankhamun's tomb. He was among the group who first entered the treasure-filled chambers. Another British Egyptologist, Arthur Weigall, was there at the opening too, and is often credited with starting the curse legend. He died young, in his 50s, in 1934, and it's possible that radiation played a role in his death. In total, 6 out of the 26 people present at the tomb's opening died within a decade. The causes varied, not just from X-ray exposure, but also from breathing issues, strokes, heart failure, pneumonia, and even poisoning. Pretty grim, right? There was one man, though, who entered the tomb and somehow escaped the so-called curse, Howard Carter, or so it seemed. Some pointed to his survival as proof the curse wasn't real. After the excavation, Carter wrote several books on the subject and shifted from archaeology to dealing in antiquities for various museums. While he avoided death or illness, rumours spread that the curse had affected him in other ways. One popular story connected him to Lord Carnarvon's daughter, Evelyn. Some claimed Carter was madly in love with her, but she married someone else, so he chose to stay single. Others said they had a secret affair while she was in Egypt, and after her father's death, she left the country for good. But there's little evidence to back this up. Evelyn was only 6 years old when they first met, and they remained friends throughout his life. She was even one of the few people at his funeral. She denied any romance between them, saying they were never that close. A year after the tomb's discovery, Evelyn married politician Sir Brograve Beauchamp and had a daughter. That same year, she and her parents toured the tomb, guided by Carter himself. Carter never married, and aside from those rumours about Evelyn, there's no record of any other romantic relationships. While the idea of a curse adds drama to his story, it's pretty clear Carter was a private person long before any tombs were opened. In 1939, after battling a serious illness, he passed away at age 64, a perfectly normal life expectancy for the UK at the time. No one thought anything strange of it, and it wasn't really connected to any curse. But after his death, it turned out Carter had been keeping several artifacts from Tutankhamun's tomb in his London apartment. They were eventually returned to Egypt, and some saw this as the final chapter in the so-called curse. Who knows? Maybe if he hadn't kept all those ancient souvenirs, he would have lived longer. Still, the deaths of others involved in the dig are suspicious. Most likely strange events during the excavation fueled the curse theory. Carnarvon, for example, died from a mosquito bite that led to a severe infection. And right around the time the tomb was opened, Cairo experienced a mysterious power outage caused by a massive sandstorm. Settings. Use a male clear American voice for speaker.